Hey guys, it's your boy, Ballface8020, back again with another great response video. So I wanted to wrap up the, talking about Casey and the interview that Michael Sartain did with Casey. I only got to, here are my notes about it. I only did like one page worth, and that took me to, I think a little bit over halfway through the interview. That's all I can take of these two. So there's not going to be a part 3 of this. I'm just going to do this, and then if I did miss anything at the end, like I skimmed over like to see like what they were talking about in the end. Like, how when you go to the bottom, it says like, here you're talking about only use this for good. That's the name of like, like the little section on the YouTube thing. Whatever, I think you'll know what I'm talking about if you know what I'm talking about. What do you call them, timestamps or whatever. It didn't seem like they really said anything else of substance, and like I said, I can't take any more of them. But anyway, this second half of it, or second half of the first half, whatever it was, there was some stuff that's worth mentioning. If you're interested at all in the whole Casey saga. So it starts off with, I don't know, Sartain's just talking about, like, how you go about getting laid and shit like that, and, like, how important money is to it. And Casey says, I actually got laid more and easier when I was poor. And he tells this story about how he was living in a house with 3 other guys, and he had his own room, one of the other guys had his own room, and then 2 of the guys shared a room. And he said it had like a leaky roof that he had to put a pot out underneath to like catch the water that was leaking in. And he said that's like, that was when he had the most success and he got laid, like easily and a lot. And he says, now it comes harder and it takes longer. And Casey said, well, this is because, women now, since I'm more high value, women see me as a long-term investment. No, I don't think that's it, Casey. I think what the difference is that when you were living in that, leaky roof house, you were 20 years old, and you were sleeping with girls who were, 18, 19, 20, 21 years old. And girls that age are not looking to settle down. They're looking to have fun. So they're much more open to just sleep, going home with a guy. Now you're 27 or 28. You're sleeping with girls 25, 26, 27, 28, maybe even older. And they've outgrown that. They're not really doing that anymore. They're not going to go just sleep with some random guy. They've been there, done that. They're looking to settle down, and they're looking for something long term. And so that's what's changed. And the thing is, you can't go, I mean, at your age, I don't know. I mean, I'm not saying that Casey wants to do this, but you can't go and get those 18 and 19-year-old girls anymore, because how would you find them? You can't go to the parties where they are. You can't go to the clubs where they are. You'd look ridiculous. You don't have to meet them in real IRL. And like, and I don't think you can. I don't think you could pull it off. Because, those girls are, I mean, obviously they have, their pick of the litter. Not that Casey's not a good looking guy, but I mean, other than money, I don't see how he would be able to get those girls. I mean, maybe if he was actually famous, but no, I mean, other than that, I mean, you better be like super good looking or super tall if you're going to be that much older than them. But anyway, so then Sartain goes on to say, he's like, like the way it is with me is I'm not going to, in so many words, he said, I'm not going to pay for affection. So like, I'm not going to pay your rent. I'm not going to buy you a new bag or whatever. I'll pay for dinner. Or trips or something, because that's something we're going to do together. But I'm not going to just buy you shit and give you money. And, it's like, it's such fucking bullshit. He's such a fucking scammer, because his girlfriend, he's 45 or 46, and he looks great for his age. I'll give him credit for that. Definitely in great shape. I think he's 45. And his girlfriend is 21. And she's definitely had, a boob job. I'm assuming he paid for that. Maybe not. And it's like, oh, she does. You don't pay her rent. Yeah, because she fucking lives with you for free. I mean, are you charging her rent? I doubt it. And I don't buy that you're not buying her shit, because I'm sure you're at least buying her shit on Christmas and her birthday, right? And you're probably doing other stuff too, because or else why would she be with him? I mean, he seems like a nice enough guy, and he's not bad looking, but he's 5'9" at most. He's nothing special in the looks department. He's not interesting. He doesn't have like an interesting personality. He has no real status. He's got like some internet fame, but it's like bad fame, and all you've got is your money, and so like, yeah, I don't buy that. You're not. I mean, no matter what, you're giving her a much better lifestyle than she can afford. I mean, she's living for free, right? So she doesn't have to work. So even if you're not buying her anything, she doesn't have to work. She's living there, getting room and board for free. I mean, you're beta bucks. So maybe it's not an overt sugar baby relationship, but it's there is that element to it. Like, think about it, like, would she be, if you lost all your money, would she stay with you? No, of course not. And I'm not even saying there's anything wrong with that. I'm just saying that, like, don't act like you're some hard ass then who's like, oh well, I'll never, like, I'm like, I'll pay for this but not pay for that. I'm not saying you don't need to have those boundaries, but it's not really you like taking a stand or putting your foot down. It's nothing impressive. It doesn't change the fact that she's with you for your money. And then Casey goes on to say, I'm not totally sure how this related to that. Casey says, I haven't done my laundry in 6 months, because I have somebody who does that for me. He never actually says it's a girlfriend, so it could be, I mean, for all we know is it's, actually, no, I'm sorry, he does imply it later. So he says, I haven't done laundry in 6 months, and he's kind of like bragging about it. Like, yeah, my girlfriend does my laundry. A lot of these Manispherian guys really have that obsession with girls doing your laundry for you. Like, the thing is, like, and I know I'm not a relationship guy, but let's say I was in a relationship. If she wants to cook for me, okay. I mean, if she's a good cook, sure, that would be nice. If she wants to clean the house, I mean, okay. I mean, again, I'd really appreciate it, but I wouldn't expect it. But laundry, no. Keep your fucking hands off of my laundry. I don't. That no. No, thank you, please. Just like, don't touch my stuff. And but like a lot of these, I don't know if it's just Casey or if it's just a lot of these Manispherian guys. Like, why do they want somebody to do their laundry? Like, that's, I know maybe I'm probably being weird about this one, but I really don't want somebody else touching my clothes. But hey, yeah, you do you. And then he says something. He said, I also, I leave dirty dishes in the sink so that when girls come over, they'll come and they'll clean them up. And I'm kind of confused now, because it's like, well, wait a minute. This girl you've been with is your girlfriend, right? Because she's been doing your laundry for the last 6 months. Wouldn't she be doing the dishes? Are you still bringing girls home? I think what he's saying is that, like, when he was still single, because I don't think Casey's single right now. I think he's in either a relationship or some really bizarre situationship. And or maybe she doesn't live with him. But then again, if she doesn't live with him, how's she doing his laundry? I don't know. I'm really confused. Yeah, so he's very, but anyway, here's the thing is, like, yeah, okay, Mike Sartain's an idiot, Casey's an idiot. But he said that, they all say that, like, when they come, they're like, oh, I've never, just done dishes for a guy before or something like that. And, Sartain was like empathizing with it and being like, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. So, like, isn't that weird? And I think it is a real phenomena. Like, the laundry thing, I still think is weird. I don't know if that's normal or not. I don't know if I'm weird or Casey's weird. But I really do think, I don't know if it's most, but I really do think that a lot of women really do like to do stuff for their man. I guess you could kind of say the equivalent, like, as guys, we kind of like doing some stuff for women too, right? Now, we don't necessarily like cooking for them or cleaning for them or, doing their dishes, but we like to, like, fix their shit, like fix their stuff, or protect them if they need to, like, or just just be there, sort of like that stuff we like to do, and I think most of us do at least. And maybe it's the reverse with women. Maybe women like to do that stuff for a guy they're with, like to um, cook and clean and stuff like that. I don't know. Maybe. Um, I do think that people in general, man or woman, like to feel needed. They like to feel needed. That's why, like, there's nothing wrong with a woman saying that she doesn't need a man, or she's like, I can do this all myself. I don't need a man. But it's not going to be a very attractive thing to say. So it's like for a woman, whether she needs a man or not, if she's looking for a man, she probably shouldn't say she doesn't need one, even if she doesn't, because it's just like, because it doesn't. I mean, I don't know. I think people want to feel needed. So yeah, I actually think that Kate's kind of right about this one. Like, let's say you're like, you're in like the game, you're womanizing or whatever, and you are like regularly or even sometimes bringing women or girls back to your house. Do I think it's a good idea to leave your place as a mess so they can clean it up? Well, I definitely wouldn't do it. I wouldn't recommend it. Do I think it's like a bad tactic? And I don't know. I think Casey might have something, if I'm being honest. Like, again, I wouldn't do it because I have too much self-respect to do something that cringe. But again, if you're listening to Casey Zander, self-respect probably isn't your strong suit. So, I mean, you already don't have any anyway. Might as well go all out. I could see it. I'm not going to criticize every idea just because it's from Casey. So then Sartain goes on to say that it doesn't really matter, with women, how good you are in bed. They don't care. And he said that he really learned this when he was managing a strip club, that, he was, listening to the conversations of the dancers and stuff. And like how many of them some of them were married and were sleeping with guys, and they would be complaining to the other girls about how the guys who they were cheating on their husbands with, weren't getting them off, weren't putting any effort in, and, weren't getting them off. And the thing is, this one, Sartain's completely right. There are two good reasons why you should or may be worried about, getting a woman off and getting, or having her finish or whatever you want to say. I don't want to be any more graphic than that. One is your ego. Okay, that's a perfectly good reason for it. Two is just respect for her. Your respect or care for her. Those are both good reasons. What's not a good reason is doing it so she'll like you or she'll want to come back, because she doesn't give a shit. She doesn't care. They don't. Women. Okay, first of all, women don't really like sex. And I know this left me open for, oh, women don't like sex with you, ha ha ha. It's like, it's really not just me. Even with Chad, they don't really like it. And you'll see it, because if women like sex, first of all, they'd want it more often, which they really don't. For them, it's really like in the mood. It's not like us where we have times where like we literally can't focus until we get it out of our system. And the other thing is that, like, women really will, like, guys who will like get them off 6 times in one night, like, women won't come back to them and be like, I'm not saying they just because they will, but I'm saying that they'll have no problem never sleeping with that guy again. But then they'll come back to repeat business for some guy who doesn't get them off at all, because it's just not something that it's a big deal to them. The truth is, and this is the thing, is like any woman who's been with another woman can tell you this. If it was really about getting off, they wouldn't even bother with men. They would just, because a woman can do it a million times better than any man can, So and any woman who's been with a woman will tell you as much. So yeah, I mean, in that sense, like, again, I'm not saying it's not important for you to do it. Again, one could be ego, and that's probably a stupid reason, but I could get it. But again, other is just respect. Because you respect her, So you're going to at least make an effort. Okay, that's perfectly good. I'm down with that. But you don't have to worry about it like so that she'll like you or that she'll want to come back, because it's completely irrelevant. You can be great in bed and she'll have no interest in returning, and the reverse. You can be horrible in bed and she'll want a lot of repeat business. It's just a non-issue. It's not relevant. So they're right about that. And then this somehow got on to Casey saying that one of his tactics in his text game is when a girl texts him something, he'll like or even either like her message or heart it, like love it. And this actually, I just realized this right now. Isn't that the same thing? Isn't? Oh, no, because a like is a thumbs up, right? And a heart is a heart. Okay, I'm sorry. Okay. He'll like or heart the message and then not respond for like 4 days. And then he's like, and I'll have girls say to me, like, I hate the way that you'll just like or heart the message and then not respond for 4 days. And I guess Casey sees that as some kind of victory. Look, I'm not saying that it can't work. I would say that if you're in a situation where she's going to put up with that she's already so into you that you don't need the games. You don't need those kind of games. If Casey thinks it's effective for him, okay, and that's something Casey goes more into this. He's like, everybody's got their own style that works for them. All right, I mean, look, he's got a lot more experience in this than me, and if he says it works for him, okay. I think it's really bad advice to give somebody else, and I think even if he's been having success with it, it's overkill, and he doesn't need it, And it's what Royce back in the day would call overgaming. And that's what it really seems like to me. I just don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's necessary or helpful. However, I will say this. If you want to play that game of not responding to her, like you're going to not respond to her for some significant amount of time, like 3 or 4 days, which seems a little excessive, but okay. I do agree that the liking and hearting is a lot better than just not saying anything. For me, this is it's kind of an ego thing. Coming from a sales background, I have a really hard time with all this tech stuff, because to me, it's, again, sales. Like when texting an email, that's like for cowards, like a frontline worker. Like if you want to talk to somebody, you talk to them. I mean, if you're a real man, you go and do it in person. It's not always practical, but you call them. You call them. Like there are certain situations where text or email are better, but those are niche situations. Sometimes just nothing else is even possible. Those are niche situations. But like I can't really think of. I don't think there would be very few situations like that in any type of relationship or flirting stating. Like, if you want to talk to her, just call her, okay? If you have something to say, just call her, go see her in person. It doesn't, like, this text shit is, I think, stupid. It's probably necessary if you're trying to, like, manage a roster or anything. So maybe for Casey, it's relevant. I don't think it is for most guys. Then Casey goes on to mid-game. That's what he calls it, mid-game. And this seems to be related to because he's really into front-end and back-end game. This is due to Casey's misunderstanding of what web development is. And remember how he was talking about, like, full-stack masculinity? Because full-stack comes from web development. It means the server, the client, and the database. And which makes it completely irrelevant, comparing it to masculinity. There's no comparison. But, so Casey says he's in the front end game, the back end game, and the mid game. Okay, well, first of all, that doesn't work for the web development comparison either, because there's no middle part in a web stack. There's a front end, a back end, and a database, not a front end and a back end and a middle part. Although, I guess, could you say that the database is, well, I guess the database kind of can be like But the database, I don't know, man. That's because the database is just where it stores your data. So like, I don't even know if like it's been a long time since I did it, but like, would the front end ever touch the database? Because I think the middle part of the stack is the back end, right? Because the database is where all your data is, and then the server is where we're going to have most of your data calculations. So it's going to pull that data out of the calculations, and then it's going to spit that back out to the front end. And not that there aren't some, especially now, there's a lot more of that stuff is done on the front end. The calculation stuff is done on the front end. But no, no, if that's what Casey's trying to do, he's really screwed it up. You know, he just doesn't understand web development at all. But anyway, he's into mid game, and that means that he's like, you know, he said, we're as men, we're always taught to lead. You know, you've got to follow your lead and stuff. But what I do in my mid game is the opposite. I deny her the masculinity until she's earned it. So I don't do stuff like walk her to her car or provide any other male leadership until she's made the investment to earn that from me. Okay. I mean, man. Okay, walking or... Okay, let me say this, right? There are a lot of girls out there who, if you're on a date with them and you don't walk them to their car or walk them to the front door and stuff, they're going to take that as either you're not interested or you've got bad manners. It's not going to intrigue them and make them chase after you. Yes, there are probably some cases where at Will's they were already going to come back anyway. But there's probably a lot of girls though who would be down with you until that happens, and then they're not going to. Not saying it's going to, I mean, again, it depends on how good looking you are, you know, what's the SMV gap, and it depends on what's her personality type. Like there's some women who won't care, and there's some who that kind of behavior is going to be a total deal breaker. But it's another example of over gaming. It's just stupid game playing. It's not helpful, and that kind of shit is a distraction, you know. And it's just douchey. I mean, the thing is, like I was about to say, like, I don't do that kind of stuff, but that's because I don't I don't date, and I've actually never been on a formal date. But even I'm just trying to think, like, if I was on a formal date, yeah, of course I'd walk her to her car. You know, like, I mean, of course I'd walk her to her car or walk her to her door. And it's got nothing to do with masculine leadership. It's got to do the same with, like, I would kind of expect her to do the same, right? For me, if it was like we were going to back to my house, and then she just, I mean, okay, yeah, I do agree. It's probably a little different with women. You wouldn't necessarily expect it. But it's like what I said before, you know, like chivalry it's manners. It's not really about leadership or protection. It's just manners, you know. Men and women are not exactly the same, and some things that are like not necessary for women are good manners when a man does it. And it's not so good manners when he doesn't do it. Now, if you're talking about like shit like pulling out her chair or opening the car door for her, that's retarded. If you do that, you are a fucking simp faggot. That's pathetic. But like, no, walking into her, and by the way, I think most women will find that kind of behavior really weird anyway. But no, look, again, if Casey's having success with this, okay, I think it's overgaming. I wouldn't be surprised if it caused him problems. You know, it, like, has cost him, like, relationships or flings at the beginning stage. I would advise staying away from that. I think Casey's way off base. But anyways, he says that, like, one thing that you're trying to, he says, with the whole language of women thing is you're trying to get her to switch from the feminine communication style, which is indirect, into the masculine communication style, which is your game, where it's very direct. So he says the goal is for you to get to that stage where, like, and he doesn't use the word, but like that she is with Chad in the club at the end of the night, where she'll just point blank say to him, like, will you take me home? Now, first of all, I don't know how common that kind of behavior is. For a girl to just ask a guy, no matter how much of a chat he is, to take her home. I've never heard of that. I mean, I'm sure it happens, but Casey seems to be implying that it's very common. Even with Giga Chads, I'd be surprised. Some of my Chad viewers can tell me. Because, in my experience, what women will not do that. They'll do everything they can to make it clear that they want you to make a move. They'll do that, but they're never going to just say like, "Will you take me home?" I mean, you'd have to be like one hell of a Chad for that. And like I said, even then. So, but Casey says that's the goal. He said, I want them to like explicitly ask me, for sex. And it's like, okay, well, I wouldn't hold your breath there, Casey, and this isn't unique to Casey. I've been seeing this on the manosphere forever. And I wonder, like, are these guys like jealous of women? Do like some of them want to be women? Like they really want women to pursue them the way that men pursue women. And it really bothers them that women don't do that. It's like, dude, that's especially you guys who are all obsessed with masculinity and femininity. Like women aren't going to do that. There are exceptions, but for the most part, women aren't going to do that. Okay? That's just like even when if you see like a woman simping for a guy, she'll simp for him, but she doesn't simp for the guy the same way a guy simps for a girl. She's not going to do that like super direct stuff. And it seems like a lot of these guys have a problem with that or can't accept it or want to change it. And it's like, I mean, if it bothers you, it bothers you, I guess. I don't understand why it would. It's just how life is. It's not a big deal. But whatever, even if it does bother you, you're not going to change it. It's just life. Then Sartain said that he, mentioned how important compliance is. He's like, and a lot of guys think that a girl's being compliant is like, oh, she's sending me nudes. Like, well, actually, no, she's sending nudes to you and 10 other guys. That's not real compliance. What is this fucking obsession with compliance? Like, well, like, what are we going for here? Like, why does she have to? Why is she, what is it, like, why is compliance so important? Like, I could understand if it was something like, again, we'll go to like something like Taliban place, like where the women just don't have a lot of legal rights. And like your wife is essentially your property and she has to do what you say. Okay, in that extent, I can understand like, oh, you'd want compliance there. But that's not the kind of relationship we're talking about here. So like, it seems like, compliance here isn't because the thing is, that Taliban guy, what's he going to do if she doesn't comply? He's going to smack her around or kill her. And, so there's forced compliance. But that's not what these guys are talking about. And I don't think it's what they want. They want this kind of like manipulative compliance, which is ironically kind of very feminine. And, but they're obsessed with it. It's like such an obsession. Like it's all psychological. Like I said, they're not going to go and like smack these girls around or murder them for not complying. It's all like mind fucks. And then they want to get to like, is she like in my frame and complying? And it's so like, I mean, cringe, weird. It's just more than anything else, just dumb. Like a relationship shouldn't be about manipulation. Because like, how are you going to sustain that for any length of time? How are you going to sustain that for more than a couple of weeks? Let's say, I'm not saying like, maybe you don't want to get married and be with her for 30 years or whatever. Maybe you just want something that's like, a few months or, something like that. Well, a few months is going to be the absolute maximum you could do like with all that manipulation stuff. And that just doesn't sound appealing to me. I don't think it would be appealing to most people. It doesn't sound, if you think it's fun, fine. But, but I don't think that's what most guys want. I think it's just stupid. And what they say with these, like what the Caseys and Sartain say is even worse. They're saying, no, you have to do it. You have to do it or she's going to lose attraction for you and leave. It's like, dude, do you guys just not know any real couples? You're fucking retarded. Then he said, Sartain again says that like, after my father died, he was killed by a drunk driver, which is tragic. It's unfortunate. Very sorry to hear that. He said that I got much more interest in women because I was finally living in the present moment. Have you noticed that? And Casey just kind of went another way with it because I think Casey was probably thinking, what the fuck? Like, what are you talking about, man? So I don't know what Sartain meant about that. Like, being like, I really don't. Like, what does he mean? Like, I know like when John Kabat-Zinn means when he's talking about the present moment, but I don't know. And however, Casey was able to. He didn't totally go off topic. He kind of worked with it, and he said that, I think it's and he cited like the tree of knowledge thing. He made kind of an interesting point about it. And he was like, this knowledge, the tree of knowledge, like knowledge can be something that's harmful. And he said, I think that in dating and life and culture, there's a lot of paralysis by analysis and overthinking. And and he said that, like, 1,000 years ago there were no dating coaches and there was no stuff like that, and yet people still got married and had kids. They would just met up and did it. He said because all the stuff of how we have to do it, all the stuff you need to do is just hardwired into you. You don't need to learn techniques. It's about and that kind of stuff is like often is going to be a distraction that makes things even worse. And I mean, great point. It's just kind of a look who's talking type thing. But then he goes on to explain it further, and he's like, for me, what it's been is mostly been a process of unlearning, like all the bad stuff, and then just using the natural, like, godly state. He's really into the God stuff now, the God-given state, and using that, and unlearning all the crap that society's taught you. And to that end, Casey says that he doesn't watch TV, which nobody does anymore, so whatever. He doesn't watch any sports. He doesn't even listen to music, and he doesn't follow politics. He has no idea what's going on in the world. And he said, and the reason is because I want to keep everything in this. He actually used the word bubble. I want to keep everything in my bubble to have like total focus on that. I don't want any distractions. And it's kind of like what I've said in other videos talking about it, about sense restraint, and even my fixing an incel video. I gave sort of similar advice there. Like when you're trying to optimize something, you cut everything else out. You can go too far with it, and there's a question of how healthy it is in the long term. And there's also a question of, like, is that the way you want to live your life? But if you're trying to optimize a specific thing, getting rid of all the other stuff that's not part of that optimization, or at least getting rid of a lot of it, I mean, it's generally probably a pretty good idea. And I do think it's been helpful to, Casey's, the success that Casey has had. I think he's onto something there. I really think he is. And then he mentions that Casey says, I've never been to a strip club. And, full disclosure, I've never been to one either. And the strip clubs just don't have any appeal to me because, first of all, they just sound kind of gross. And and I don't want to spend the money. And it just seems like it would be really awkward and unpleasant. And it's just for something like, I don't... Like, I can see why other people like them, but they have no appeal to me whatsoever. So I've never been to one. So Casey says, he's never been to one, but I think his reasons are a little different than mine. I mean, I agree he probably wouldn't enjoy it either, but he's like, look, once you've had sex and, you've seen, like, her have raw desire for you, you don't need this, like, synthetic stuff, like in strip clubs. And, I don't know how big a deal that is for most guys. I think it's a really big deal for guys in the manosphere, as I see them mention it a lot, that they really want to feel like she desires them. For me, it never made a difference. I don't care if, that doesn't, like, that doesn't, whether she's into me or not. I mean, if she's hot, then I don't, like, if she's hot and she's willing, then, that's, all that needs to happen. Whether she's really into me, that just doesn't do anything for me one way or the other. I don't know if I'm the norm on that or if Casey's the norm. But I know that Casey's definitely the norm in the manosphere. Like, that's a really big thing. Like, being desired by women. They want them to, like that's just part of it. Like, it goes, like, beyond the validation. It's just something that, like, they really need to, I don't know. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. It might even be a healthy way to feel, unless it's something that makes you start being jealous of women, that they're able to get that from men and you're not able to get that from them. I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what's the normal is there. And then he says that, he cuts off everything from the outside world because he wants to stay true to his state. Okay, maybe kind of a dumb way to phrase it, but I get it. I get it. And then he mentions one last kind of interesting thing. He said that he spent years hating himself for not being able to be normal. To just all he wanted was to be like a normal guy who could just go to a football game and watch it and be happy and like and have fun like this. But like or go to like those social functions and stuff. And it just wasn't him. It's not him. And he's gotten to the point where he's just accepted that's who he is. He's just not interested in that stuff. He's not good at it. He doesn't like it. And he's accepted it, leaned into it, and worked with it. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. I mean, there's definitely times that, I wish, I could have more normal interest, and, so I know how he feels, I know how he feels. Yep, that's all for now. See you in the next.